Hey, good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning.
Lynn, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
We are Friday morninging this one, and we don't often do that, but we are so popular now, Lynn. You wouldn't
Matt and
believe
I have
this.
seen a lot of each other through two little squares.
Yeah. We actually have almost 2 guests a week booked for the rest of the summer, I think. Like we are.
You guys are killing it.
We're very excited. These conversations are so much fun. And as we almost just did, thank God Tom and I have like this sensitivity now, but he's like, hit record. Like, we get into these conversations sometimes and it's like, oh shit.
We missed the best part.
That. Yeah. Yeah. So cool. Well, thank you for spending your Friday morning with us. I have been looking forward to talking to you for a while because Tom talks about you like a school crush.
Lynn, we've known each other for what, like since 2013.
Yeah.
Was it 13 or 14? I was just thinking that it's got to be 10 years at least, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, yeah, 10, maybe 11 years because my daughter had just come out 3 months early. And then I was appointed to the state board, and then the executive director of the state board said, "Hey, I've got this neighbor," and that was Jenny, looking for a job, looking for an acupuncturist, and then the rest, as they say, is history.
Well, that's
and who would have thought that 10 years later we'd be sitting here talking on your amazing podcast? I know.
I mean, it's some really good things came from that whole experience, didn't they?
And they say if you have a friendship for at least 7 years, then you'll have it forever.
Oh, wow. That's great.
You heard that saying?
No, but I'm not sure how much longer the world's going to last. So
right.
It might be forever, and that's next week.
I only went to college for 5 years. Does that mean I just missed the mark? I should have stayed in a little longer. I could have had some longer friends.
You would have had some lifelong friends.
Yeah.
Oh God.
It is funny how life works like that. I grew up in California, and I moved. My parents moved us from California to New Jersey my sophomore year of high school. And I was like murderously mad at them. I was like, fuck you all. Like, this is the worst. You guys are terrible people. Like, and 5 minutes after I got to New Jersey, I'm like on a swim team with a bunch of kids my age. And I'm like having the time of my life. And I'm like, yeah, this is definitely not terrible at all. And because of that single activity in my life, every other thing that has been happening to me, like my wife, my 5 years in college, all of that, like I would have done none of that here. It would have all been somewhere else. And not to say that I couldn't have been on a different podcast out of San Francisco by now, but it is funny how like one little event kind of just sends you off in a whole different.
I'm a firm believer that things happen for a reason and things happen the way they're supposed to happen.
Yeah. And that's a great way.
And when you're not on the right path, you know it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like there are definitely times in my life where I just couldn't put my finger on it, but I knew that I wasn't where I was supposed to be.
And that's funny because it happens intra-journey a lot of times too. And today is my 48th birthday actually. So,
happy birthday, man.
Birthday.
Yeah,
thank you.
Crap, I didn't
Oh God, no. I mean, you're just
I didn't get you anything
right?
except some rolling paper business cards.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I told Sarah about them, and she's like, that is actually like oddly fit.
It is on brand for us, Lynn. Let me show you.
I think Tom might have found them now, but he got a fun business card for us.
I got, I figured, they're just little packs of our little QR code there for Irreverent Health, and then our logo. And then,
papers.
Boom, it's a pack of rolling papers. So people will hang on to them for a little bit longer than a business card is what I think.
That's too funny.
And every time they roll a joint, then they're going to see us. It's branding.
Roll a joint, listen to an episode.
Right. But yeah, so, at 48, like obviously today is my birthday, so I think about it a little bit more today than I do the other 364 days.
Why did I think I was older than you?
But like I've realized that and we talked about this a little last night about like the definition of real intelligence. Somebody told me once was not what you can know or what you know, but how fast you could unlearn and relearn something that you find out new information on, right? And how you could just like the ease in which you could let something go is really the mark of intelligence. And I feel like recognizing when you're on the wrong journey and like being able to be like, this used to be cool for me and now it's not. And that's kind of where I'm at now. Actually, I'm like, what? like this show's a great example. Like Tom and I started this to just like, we're bored in COVID, right? Like,
we were having these conversations anyway. We said, let's hit record.
Yeah.
And now
I attribute my ability to do that to, I think my ability to know that is totally due to meditation. Like before I started meditating, I just wasn't in tune with that kind of stuff. Yeah. I know Tom are big into that too, but
Lynn, we are giving away a meditation headband. Muse.
I saw that.
The founder of Muse on our podcast.
Yeah.
And I told her I was knocking on the 2,000 day in a row door. And then I reached out to them and they're like, yeah, we'll send one out. Just pick a winner.
That is great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh no, so please, I cut you off there. I stepped on you.
No. I'm just going to say, like, it's just it's a life-changing thing if you can convince people to do it. And that's why one of the reasons why Muse is so cool is because it kind of makes it fun. It's like a game. I mean, we've come a long way in 20 years. We used to bring that stuff up to my patients and they would like roll their eyes. No, that's woo stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of more accepted. So it's become more talked about, mainstream, tons of research that people are actually talking about now about how incredible it is. And just been a life-changing thing for me, for sure.
Yeah. And what's funny about that, and I'd love to hear your take on this, but I today was my 82nd day consecutive. And I'm constantly shamed by Tom's fucking near 2000. But
I'm just hoping I don't lose my phone or the headband, man.
Yeah, right.
That would break me.
They'll give you another one now because you're like their best customer.
Hopefully.
Well, yeah, but she said people call her up and say, can you please reset my streak? I had like blah, 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 blah. And I said, yeah, and that's the problem with streaks. And my daughter was on a 101-day Duolingo streak. Mm-hmm. And she basically, we went on a cruise for spring break and it broke the streak. And she came back and she literally deleted Duolingo off her phone. And I was like, now she's 13 and she doesn't have the cognitive function necessary yet to do some of these things. But I'm like, why'd you do that? And she goes, well, I broke the streak. So like, it's not important anymore. And I'm like, so this is interesting because part of the streakness was working. She was dedicated to Duolingo and was learning Italian. And part of it doesn't work because, and I'm the same way. Before my 82, I had like a 34-day streak before that. And I missed one day just because I just forgot. Like it wasn't like I'm not a, bad person. Nothing happened. There was no drama behind it. I just forgot. And I broke a streak. So, and that next day when you start at 1, it's fucking heartbreaking. You're like, oh, like this.
So, some days it doesn't upload quickly.
Right. Oh yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, where'd my streak go?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it's tough. And, I don't know, like, I think there's a lot of like, I don't know. I've rethought my positioning on streaks, right? Because it's like, it can be a little toxic. I think drives me crazy when I lose a streak, I'm
going to magic clip this little section and send it to Muse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Along with a note like, hey, could we get a few more headbands?
Yeah. Yeah. So Lynn, functional doc, is that kind of the 50,000 foot? Because I want to dig into what that means because I feel like this is a wildly misunderstood job title. Like,
true.
Yeah. So
we've also come a long way with that. Yeah. So, in fact, when I first started practicing 20 years ago, we called ourselves alternative medicine practitioners, which I think is even weirder.
No
and
disagreement.
Then it kind of, that just sounds weird, right? It's alternative to what? Like, what exactly are you doing? And then it kind of was like integrative practitioner was the thing. And now it's functional medicine practitioner. They all actually have a slightly different definition, but people use those terms interchangeably all the time.
Yeah.
So I consider myself a functional medicine practitioner, which basically means I look for the root cause of why people have the symptoms they have. So I'm not just here to band-aid your symptoms. I'm here to figure out the cause and fix them in the most natural way possible. I also believe, and functional medicine practitioners believe, that the whole body is connected. None of this should sound like rocket science, right? It should sound like common sense.
But if you look at modern medicine, that's the problem,
don't look
right?
At it that way, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at your liver. I don't care about what's going on over there.
Exactly. We have our specialists set up to look at our body parts, our neurologist, our rheumatologist, our gastroenterologist, and they're all good at what they do and they all are experts in that one body part. But nobody's stepping back and like being the dot connector for people. Stepping back and saying, you know what, your autonomic nervous system actually impacts your gastrointestinal system. So if you've got a gastrointestinal symptom, does that mean you need to run to the gastroenterologist? Maybe you just need to do some news. Maybe you just need to So it's like stepping back and looking at the body as a whole, connecting the dots, getting to the root cause, trying not to put people on thousands of prescriptions if I don't have to. Spend a lot of time on the boring topics of diet, exercise, sleep, stress management, because you know what? They fix most people's problems. It's just convincing people to do it and showing them there's a reason to do it and showing them the test results and even the research. It's a very science-backed modality. The research that shows that if you exercise, 30 minutes a day for 6 weeks, it'll fix your depression just as quickly as that.
That was a great study. That one just came out, right? Yeah.
I know.
But you know what? That's a great example of, I think, the illiteracy of health in general in our world. And I think it's like kind of funny because recursively we talk to people on this show, obviously, about all kinds of stuff. I mean, we have somebody on scalar energy coming on to our show, and I can't wait because I don't know.
I'll ask Lynn about that offline.
Yeah,
because I'm like,
yeah, right. But you know what? Here's the thing: as somebody in a conversation that we're having right now, we all have to sort of submit that there could be tidbits or the entire thing of that's valid, right? I don't know. Like I don't know, but rather than just automatically pushing it out, like my spidey senses go up and go, really? Are we?
Right.
Okay. Well, Matt, look, to that point, in an email the other day, they said, how would you like to earn another doctorate? And I was like, oh, okay, I'm listening. It's called lifestyle medicine. They're giving out doctorates in lifestyle medicine. And I looked at the course and it's like, okay, here's how you tell people to sleep more. Yeah. Here's how you tell people to exercise. Here's how you tell people not to eat shit. Yeah. And I went, we need a doctorate for this?
Well, you do.
You do.
You do. Because, first of all, nobody believes it.
Yeah.
Second of all, they don't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And third of all, there's no big drug company backing why we should all live healthy lives, because then we're not going to need to be on all that. There's so many things stacked against us as a people, as humans,
to
actually live a healthy life the way we could or should, that you do need a specialty now to give some credentials or just some backing to someone who's going to tell you to do that.
Well, that was kind of the point that I was trying to make there. It's like, you get a study that comes out that says 6 weeks of 30-day exercise is as effective as Prozac or whatever, and people
Prozac is so much easier.
Yeah. But people are like, that can't be true because my doctor told me that Prozac is the only way out of this. And so people are like, and that's where I think people like you probably get, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's probably where you get the worst rap by people who are in the muggle territory of normal humans, right?
Yeah.
That are like,
why do you always go Potter, man? Why do you always go Potter?
I don't know, because everyone knows what a muggle is, and it's just such a easy way.
I don't know. I thought we were more of a Star Wars kind of show.
Well, I mean, if you could give me the Star Wars analog, I will switch. I don't know what that would be, but
I gotta think about that one.
The normies, right? The normies out there. Yeah.
We used to have to hide from the normies. We had to fly under the radar 20 years ago. And still to this day, don't really advertise. We're not out there saying, hey, come see us. We do this stuff called integrative or functional medicine, because the regular conventional world either didn't believe it or poo-pooed the whole thing, or for some, there's just so much misinformation and disinformation about what we do that they just say, oh my God, those are quacks. It's not science-based. Don't listen to them. And actually, it couldn't be further from the truth. Nowadays, thank goodness, it's everybody in the street corner setting up some, functional medicine practice. So it's much more accepted, and we're kind of out in the open now. Oh my God, we talk about diet. That's crazy.
If you had to define though the difference, I mean, even at a 50,000 foot view between functional medicine or integrative medicine, or we split them up into different words, and I'll be honest with you, I'm the guy who uses them interchangeably as well.
Slight difference. There's definitely some commonalities. I think there's more commonalities than differences. I would say integrative medicine integrates other modalities. So we're talking about the best of both worlds to some degree. We're also integrating things like acupuncture. We're integrating things like massage therapy, integrating things like body workers. We're integrating, the best of Western medicine. It's not that Western medicine is bad, but integrative practitioners kind of do all of that. They're a big quarterback that helps a patient kind of navigate everything from the best of all the worlds, which is great. I say that functional medicine is just a small subset of that. So I would think of integrative medicine as kind of like a larger umbrella, and functional medicine is kind of like a smaller subset
like a specialty.
of that. Yeah.
I got you.
Lynn and I have a heavy referral network, by the way. Yeah, I have no idea what's going on with you, but I please call her.
Yeah, but that makes sense to me. And again, this goes back to like, I have a higher degree of literacy, partly because of the show, but the show only exists because Tom and I had a higher sense of literacy on this topic. But that's not normal. I mean, one of the biggest pieces of encouragement we got to start this show was with a woman we both knew who said, I need this recorded so I can Google half the shit you're talking about. Like, because and they just didn't.
Who was that?
Eliza, remember?
Oh, it was Eliza?
Yeah, right.
Really?
Yeah, she was a big proponent of us in the beginning because she was like, I'm fascinated with your passion for this, and I'm fascinated at how much you guys know about this, but I also have no fucking idea what you're talking about half the time. And that's weird because we're not talking about it. If you look at that through the other lens, if you put what Tom and I talk about into a circle of like true biohacker nerds, like we're kind of like mediocre.
Well, we're not talking at a study level all the time. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's meant to be like, here's how we, have access to that.
Practical.
How do we make
it?
Can I use this study?
Yeah.
Versus, well, that's great. What do I do with that?
Which FYI is, in my opinion, it still remains, and this show enforces it every time, how big of a gap there is between illiteracy and study level dialogue about these topics. And there's like nothing in the middle.
Right.
You've got echo chamber Instagram girls doing yoga, and you've got echo chamber, bros doing like workout things and everything using big fancy words and whatnot.
It's cool though. Like, people talk about it. They just might not use the word functional medicine or integrative medicine. There's plenty of people out there saying, I know something's wrong. My doctor keeps telling me I'm fine. Yeah. My doctor ran blood work and it's great, but I feel like shit. There has to be another way. There has to be somebody out there who can dig a little deeper and figure out the root cause of what's wrong with me. They're describing functional medicine. They don't know that's what it's called. But now I think we can reach them. We just have to know how to speak their language and say, oh, I know, I hear you. I talk to people like you. I've treated thousands of people like you. I know exactly what I need to look for and what test I need to run and how to help you.
Right.
So people are at least talking about it. We just have to use the language that they're familiar with. And functional medicine sounds scary. So we need to educate them or frame it differently for them. But people are talking about it.
I mean, my parents are reasonably bright humans, and they hear the word functional medicine and they're like, oh, fuck, here goes. Matt's high on something. I don't know. Like, they don't, they push back against that vocabulary immediately.
But they might say, hey, Matt, I don't really want to take this statin drug for my high cholesterol. Is there something else I can do? They're asking for functional medicine solutions to the problem. They just don't know that that's what they're asking for.
And I got to tell you, we don't have to spend time on this, but like that topic in particular is what I'm dealing with right now. I have a concierge doc that I went to specifically so I could have a higher level dialogue about my health. And that part has worked out great, except for the fact that I had a very high lipo-A and like abnormally high, like 191, I think it is. And you're supposed to have it like under 75 or something. And he goes, yeah, you can't, this is a genetic thing. You can't exercise or diet your way out of this. So I'm just going to throw you on a statin, which has been shown to help. And I'm like, you are not going to do that yet. We are not going to have that conversation. If we end up getting there, and this might be my own problem, but like, I feel like that would be a failure if I didn't at least look into some other versions yet. And he's not happy with me. He's like, basically like, I don't know what your problem is. Like, just get on a fucking statin and get it over with. And I'm like,
look, man, we can eat a ton of Peking duck. We can just eat a ton of Peking duck and we'll be okay.
Oh, is that what I need to do next? Because I could wrap my head around that.
I'm playing. So the red yeast extract, rice extract is what they use to make the Peking ducks red. It is a more natural statin, essentially.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
That's funny. Well,
and you know, I mean, we don't want to get too much in the weeds in this, but do you, and obviously I don't know anything about the rest of your health, but do you even really need that? I mean, what's the rest of your lipid profile look like? What is your
the rest of it's okay.
health?
I mean,
do you eat well? Do you exercise? Do you smoke? Do you drink? What's your family history? So like, there's so many other things that need to be taken into consideration before you just put somebody in a statin because one number's high.
Which is what we're doing right now. We're kind of peeling that onion back, but I think it is funny even when you get into a conversation with somebody who has a much higher literacy on all of this, which is what my doctor currently is, he still has his boundaries, right? Like it's like still kind of like, all right, even here in this very elevated discourse about this topic, he's still kind of like, nope, here's the wall. Like the wall is right here. And when we hit it, we hit it. Like it's just, that's it. There's no,
you know what? And I'm sure that's, and Lynn, I had a patient come in yesterday and I hadn't seen her in a while and she had a whole bunch of weird stuff going on. And she goes, look, I started ozone therapy. And I'm like, where? Immediately, because I'm like, that's kind of taboo in Maryland. And she goes, look, I'll give you the doctor's name.
You got to knock 3 times.
She's not on the internet anywhere. And you cannot just call her. You have to say these things because she's been in front of the board so many times.
Wow. That takes balls to still do ozone when you've been in front of the board already.
But that's, and I there was an Italian physician I knew through another patient that, this patient too. It might have been an opera singer that would spend some time in Italy. He came back and he said his wife had RA and he was getting ozone therapy. Or she was getting ozone therapy, and this doc basically said, yeah, you guys won't use it. It's safe, effective, and doesn't make the drug companies money.
Isn't it legal in Europe, though?
Yeah, well, there's so much that's legal in Europe that isn't here.
Yeah, but I'm saying like ozone in particular, like it's not a big deal in Italy, is it? Like I thought that's just okay.
I don't know. Probably.
Yeah.
Matt, we can get a machine.
See, that's the thing. And what's funny, Lynn, is, and this is the most tragic part about this show for me, is like, I keep learning about all these new toys and I'm like, I'm a toy guy, like a big toy guy. I love them. And like this morning, I started using my Violite, Tom, the intranasal Violite.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm like, you know what? This is easy to do. You plug it in your nose while you're meditating for 20 minutes. It's a 20-minute cycle. So is my meditation. It works out perfectly, right? Like it's like easy to do. But
stacking.
But you go on to AliExpress or Alibaba and you're like, fuck, I could buy. the other day I found an EWAT machine for $600 with the gradiated and everything, just like you were saying. And I'm like, $600, 1,000 landed, and I got an EWAT machine in my house. Like that's kind of neat.
Wow.
All those things are like crazy when you pull it back, because like even my cold plunge, I had a problem with it. And I went on Alibaba and I'm like, okay, worst case scenario, I got to buy one of these for $400.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, Lynn, like that's the funny part about what you do. Cause when I talk to people like you and get ideas, I'm like, oh, there's gotta be a hacking gadget for this. I can go out there and,
well, Matt, that's an interesting segue, because I think Lynn can talk about, probably your favorite buzzword right now or term.
Yeah.
What's that?
AI.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're allowed to talk about that, right, Lynn?
Yeah, I like AI. I mean, I do it professionally. I mean, I'm a technologist for 30 years. So like, I mean, we build iPhone apps and websites and AI agents and stuff like that. But having nothing to do with any of that, what I find interesting about AI is simply that like and I've seen this in regular world, right? Like meaning like not irreverent health world, right? But in regular world, we're making huge leaps in almost everything for no reason other than intuition or insight and discovery. Really is just it from my view anyway. the intersection of your worldview and something that happened today that connected dots in your brain that were not connected 30 seconds ago. And now you've got a new spark, right? And that spark leads to you spending days, weeks, months, years honing it. And then that becomes like the discovery. Well, AI could shortcut that a lot because it's got infinite dots in infinite directions at near instantaneous speed. And therefore that insight in ideation cycle could happen like way faster. And I don't know if you've been following the Parkinson's AI, but this shit is like crazy. Like they found like protein chains that are more efficient than nature can make, like that were suggested out of this Parkinson's AI. And I'm like, you know, they haven't tested it yet. It just on paper, they're like looking at the math. They're like, well, this looks like it actually works better than like anything we've ever seen in actual nature. Like, and like that idea is like crazy. That's just one AI that they've managed to train up sufficiently on one very small thing, Parkinson's, like myopic horse blinders, only Parkinson's. But like put that out there at scale. Like imagine if you had this AI for every fucking stupid thing that humans can suffer from. Like, you know, it's going to take us decades to build it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the upside, right? I mean, that's the AI for good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fine line. I don't know exactly if I feel excited or scared sometimes about the potential of it, but, you know, just in the short amount of time that we've had it, it's already been amazing, been shockingly amazing at what we've been able to do.
Sure. But they, you know, they've said, you know, especially in these circles, you know, poison is in the dosing, right? Like it's not. So, you know, and what is interesting, I was on an AI mastermind last week and, really fascinating observations from people that are working in the field. In the last year, January, nobody's ever heard of ChatGPT. March, everybody's heard of ChatGPT. June, I mean, the graph goes straight up. And now we've been on like a taper down. And so for the last 6 to 8, 9 months, I don't know, no real specific amount of time, the general reaction to AI has gotten less. And I think it's because the news is flooding us with AI. And if I ask one of my clients or prospects, and I do this every day of the week, what is your business using AI for? They're like, it used to be like curiosity and like exploration. Now it's like, I don't know, we use ChatGPT to write some emails and that's it. Because people are like, there's too many fucking tools out there. It does too much. Like I'm exhausted. Like I just want to go back to selling mousetraps, right? Like I
think the field of medicine is an interesting application because I think, Tom, you probably agree with this, but like part of being good at what you do as a clinician is the humanness of it. Mm-hmm. Like if you take away the connection that you have with people and your ability to make that connection with people, the ability to get people to trust you, like people aren't going to do what I tell them to do unless they trust me and they believe in me. I still think that they would trust me over a machine. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, don't get too cocky there.
It takes a little bit of developing relationships with people to spur that healing that needs to happen. And I just don't think that we'll ever get to the place where I'm hoping that people like what Tom and I do will be replaced.
Tom, did you not tell Lynn about the Reddit?
I don't think I don't like so Lynn, this appeared in a publication. There's a subreddit called Ask a Doctor, and they plugged AI into that, and then they asked, you know, so people would go on, ask health questions.
Yeah.
And not only did AI blow away the actual doctors in accuracy, like they were.
It was the empathy thing, right?
It was an empathy thing, right?
Yeah, I heard that.
But I feel that this is more of a function of it's no extra effort for an AI to bang out a paragraph of like, hey, I'm so sorry you and your family are going through this. I understand these can be hard. But for a doctor that's been conditioned for like that 8-minute patient cycle, oh, you got this, get out of here.
Right.
You know, so they've already cut out that compassionate part because that's kind of been trained into them. Like, I don't think that's natural. That's not why they got into medicine.
And Lynn, I was only kind of fucking with you on that. I mean, yeah, because I agree with you in one instance, right?
I'm sure I'm just naive.
No, it's not. It's not that. I think it really is. I think it actually is the most human reaction to AI that exists, because like we have this sort of opinion that we are good at the human part, right? Like that's a normal interpretation of the human condition, right? I am good at being a human, right? I am a human. This makes sense. But the problem is that I think we miscommunicate or misunderstand the vocabulary in that sentence, right? Because it's not that we're not good at being human. It's just that we misascribe certain attributes of humanity to humans, right? So we say, I am going to be more empathetic than a computer. Well, to Tom's point, what is empathy? But if you had to describe it clinically, empathy is all the things Tom was saying, right? It's spending an extra couple minutes. I mean, I went to a concierge doctor so that I could get more conversation with him. Like that is the root of that. If he was a box and I was talking to the box, and I could check that same box by talking to my computer, and I'd get 2 hours of a clinical conversation about something going on, I don't think I would care that it wasn't a human, right? Like if it was accurate and I was getting what I needed out of it, I mean, is that different than talking to a guy who's just spending a lot of time with me? I don't know that it is, right? I mean, but
that's the debate. That's the debate.
That's going to be an interesting thing to see how that shakes out.
Yeah.
And we've talked a lot
about. I'm not if I'm excited or scared, because I don't know what direction it's going to go in.
I think that's a let's call it a prudent standpoint, right? You know, this could be really good, this could be not so good, and I do think we'll have some figuring out to do.
Yeah.
And I think the most exciting thing is that your line of work, Lynn, is going to be able to contribute to the AI conversation as a whole. Is like Tom and I have spent a lot of time talking about gadgets on this show. And one of the gadgets we're both like pretty excited about is these urinals in Japan that you can piss into, and it gives you a full urinalysis, right there. And they're talking about extending those. Amazon's doing something with health pods where you can basically do a version of that, right? And guess what? Not surprisingly, those things are loaded up with all the staunch Western diagnostician version of medicine, right? Like it's like your thing is high, you got to have
a UTI, right? Exactly, an antibiotic, or there's sugar in your urine. Take this diabetes drug, So,
but that's what information we have access to right now. So that makes sense to me. But what I think the magic will come into, and going back to that infinite dots and infinite directions, is if you start putting an army of Lynn's out there onto this and say, well, hey, yes, this might mean that you have a UTI, but here's a bunch of other shit that could also mean, have we thought about this? And to your point, peeling back that onion of everybody and going deep in whichever direction. I mean, at a certain point in the future, I don't know how long that will be, but we could stuff this AI with all of that data too. But it's not going to be immediately profitable for anybody. So I feel like that's going to be like the long tail of this conversation, right? It'll be some other day, not, But there's going to be a Dave Asprey or something, Tom, who's going to like pay somebody to like, or most likely like a Brian Johnson, who's going to pay an AI people to stuff it full of that stuff. So there is hope there too.
I think so, but I think, and what I want to get to with Lynn is what she's been working on, which is kind of this at least online presence. Lynn, do you want to talk about Lyra?
Yeah,
sure. About Lyra.
That sounds fun.
So when Tom and I first met back at this other company that we worked for, we were both excited about the concept of bringing functional medicine or integrative medicine to more people. Just so happened that experience didn't work out for us, but the dream never died. And how do we get our message out? How do we reach more people? How do we make this more acceptable, affordable? How do we do that? And then COVID came along, which was a blessing in disguise, I think, because it gave us the tools to connect. It gave us, I never would have started doing telehealth visits before COVID. It just forced us to. I never would have thought that if my patient lived in Colorado. I could, it expanded our ability to reach anybody, anywhere in the country. So that was really cool. And we just kept in touch with a lot of the people that we met back during that experience. And we always thought, one day we may be able to do this better. And so Lyra Health was born just about a little over a year ago. And what we're going to be doing is it's going to be an all app-based experience. It's going to be, our target market is females between about 30 and 50, struggling with stuff that happens during that time in someone's life, juggling kids, work, responsibilities, demand on your time. That's the most typical patient that I see is a woman in that demographic, because that's when the shit hits the fan. And that's when she walks into my office and she says, I'm exhausted. I can't sleep. I'm grumpy. I'm gaining weight. Just my hormones are out of balance. My cycles, like everything, all the dominoes fall. And what I found over and over again over the years is that there's some commonalities that women in this demographic share. And there's some core systems that really become the primary focus for what breaks in these women. And that is hormones, gut health, autonomic nervous system, and their metabolic health. And so Lyra's focus, at least out of the gate, and we're going to expand at some point, but it's women with that demographic, looking at those 4 core systems and really we're going to be using, interesting that we just talked about the urinal testing, but we're going to be doing a lot of home testing, kitting that we can get, women at their home to do at their convenience, saliva testing, stool testing, blood work, and to investigate those 4 systems. And then what's really cool about it, which I'm excited about, is like, we can give people all the most cool information about them in the world, but then how do they fix it? It's the behavior change piece that's really, really difficult. How do you get somebody to change their diet when they already feel exhausted? How do you get somebody to start doing meditation and mindfulness when, they don't have the capacity to even like brush their teeth some days? So we're really like looping in a lot of behavior change science into the app. So it's not just a discovery of what's wrong with you. It's a whole behavior change experience to help women incorporate the recommendations that we're making, all in the palm of their hand, all in an app, wherever you are, whatever zip code you live in. If you don't live near a functional medicine doctor, it doesn't matter. You will be able to access Lyra and get this information, start transforming your health. So we're really excited about it. So it's taking like functional medicine and kind of distilling it down to this core group that we really want to go after, and really empowering them to be put back in the driver's seat of their own health. I think women's health is a very, fortunately, neglected area, both research-wise and how we talk about it, how we frame it. So much time women's health is really talked about as, your period problems or your pregnancy problems. But women's health is really so much more than that. It's an overlooked area. It's an underlooked at area. And we're really excited to be at the forefront of the femtech revolution, a digital health application of women's health.
Yeah, you couldn't have been entering this space at a better time. This seems to be like a real explosive category right now. And I'm super excited about it because, being a male, I can apologize for everyone behind us. But basically, like, they're just like, oh, she's just fucking crazy. Like, we're just ignore it.
But that was it. I mean, we literally have the word hysteria.
Yeah, hysteria. Yeah. Bad humors, like all kinds of words. Yeah.
We're told to put up with it. Oh my God, it's that time of the month. Take some Prozac. Stop complaining. And, that's what we've been told for years. And there's just been and we go to the doctor, we go to the GYN, they're no help. They say take birth control pills or, it's just like, we're not left with very good solutions. And it's a societal problem. I'm not blaming all men, but maybe a little bit. It's just the whole makeup of the hierarchy of the patriarchy of society. I mean, we could talk 5 hours about this topic, but it's ingrained in us. It's ingrained. Mm-hmm. We don't even realize that we're doing it. You don't even realize that you're treating us that way. And we let it happen because we don't even realize that we're letting it happen. So it's just like complicated shit. And the consequence of is that women suffer. Women suffer every day. We smile. We push on. We're super women. We can handle it. Wonder Woman. Mm-hmm. I have a job and kids. Aren't I awesome? But there's a consequence to that. Mm-hmm. And that's when they end up in my office, like broken. And I've been doing this long enough to know what I need to ask, what tests I need to do, what the likely systems are that are offline, and how to fix it.
And it's not funny, but, you know, interesting, I guess, that my wife is in her mid 40s now, and this is a new conversation for her. But like, funny enough, she didn't ever ask these questions until she started having things that were unexplainable. And, you know, now she starts digging, and then, you know, the word perimenopause hits into her feeds now. And now all of a sudden, like, you know, shoves all this new information down her throat, and she's like, oh, maybe this is. And she's done a lot of the things. She had that pellet in her ass for a little while for hormone stuff. And, you know, she's on different supplements and stuff, and she's working the problem. Like, you know.
Yeah. And she's lucky maybe that she's found someone that sounds like that can help her. But that's what I'm talking about. This is when it happens to women around that perimenopausal, you know, late 30s, early 40s. And it's usually driven by the hormone changes that she's not aware are going on behind the scenes, because it's not so obvious. She's still getting her period. So it's like, okay, I'm still getting my period. It can't be my hormone. But they're changing. They're fluctuating. There's more estrogen than ever. There's not enough progesterone. That creates a whole constellation of problems downstream from that. And all the other systems go offline. And she's showing up with symptoms she's never had before that no one can explain to her if she's not going to the right person who's not asking the right questions. And a lot of women just end up throwing up their hands and say, well, maybe it's just, I just need to put up with it.
Well, then they go back to that conditioning. They're like, well, I guess I'm just being a baby about this. It's fine. It'll, you know, like, and yeah. But I'm curious, like, yeah, I mean, it does seem more acute when you hit perimenopause, or certainly menopause, to deal with this. But like, is there any sort of utility in getting this on your radar in your 20s and like sort of greasing the groove, as it were?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like I said, like our early 30s, definitely. And again, it depends on your ability to navigate the rough travails of perimenopause. 100% depends on the health that you're going into it at. So yeah, it would behoove women to get all their ducks in a row, so to speak, in their early 30s, but we don't even start talking about it yet. But that's really when they should be focusing on it, because like the roller coaster's getting ready to start and they're not aware. But that's the time to really get things in order. And the most important things to probably get in order, and we're going back to what we first started talking about, is like your autonomic nervous system, like how your body deals with the stressors that you're going to encounter is extremely important to help you navigate those waters. Because if you're chronically stressed, which most women are, that's going to fuck up your hormones even in more pronounced way earlier on. So you've got to understand that. You've got to understand the person's adrenal health. You've got to focus on sleep. I mean, all the things that we started saying, well, what functional medicine is, all the boring stuff that puts people to sleep, you really need to start focusing on in your 30s so that your perimenopausal time frame is not so darn crazy. But it's hard to convince somebody that's 30 years old that you need to start carrying that soon, right? Because she still feels fine.
Sure.
Well, I guess there's still enough of that invincibility in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess a follow-up question that either of you probably would be suited to answer in your clinical world, but I think one of the reasons why shows like this have gotten more popular is because there has been a renaissance of curiosity about health in general, right? Like, hey, I don't want to feel like shit. I don't need to feel like shit. I just read an article the other day that said jet lag is voluntary. And I'm like, can you imagine like the audacity of that statement, right? Like, but at the same time, when you look at the science, it's an absolutely true statement. Like there are absolute mechanical ways that will 100% alleviate jet lag, right? Mm-hmm. But we don't think of those things as sort of optional, but now there's this awakening. But again, most of the time it happens like I'm 48. I started thinking about this when I hit 40 because my eyesight started to go a little bad. My back started to hurt in the morning. Like there was reasons to want to start caring.
We care when it's too late. You
That's
care
exactly,
when you already have symptoms. By the way, PMS is optional too. You know, we were, as women, we're taught thinking that that's normal. You're going to feel crappy right before your period starts. You might have cramps and blah, blah, blah. That's optional. We're just taught that having imbalanced hormones our whole life is normal. And, you know, who cares?
so
that paves the road.
And back to that regular medical system, right? My older daughter is going through that. And, she's getting the acne and all this and that. We're seeing a great dermatologist who's like, take her to the gyne. And the gynecologist is like, no, she's too young. And I'm like, but, she's sexually active at 13, 14? No, but
right.
She has these symptoms.
It's a symptom. Guess what, though, Tom? Your gynecologist is not going to be able to help you with hormone.
Right.
You would think that the gynecologist would be an expert in female hormone health. Sadly, they are not.
No.
They're going to offer the birth control pill or nothing. That's really the only tool they have in their pocket for that. And unless you want to put your 13-year-old on birth control, there's really no value you're going to get out of that conversation.
Yeah, you know what? I hate to say it, and we kind of talked about the disparity with women, and then you marginalize that even more. God forbid they're black women or lesbians or something like that. I had a woman come in, and she was super savvy, real intelligent. She asked me for a 7-star needle. Matt, I don't know if I said this on this show before, but I definitely said it on other podcasts I've been on. And I go, why do you want a 7-star needle? That's such a niche treatment even. She goes, well, I'm losing my hair. And when I was in California, it worked for me. And I go, okay, why are you losing your hair? She had no idea. She just, maybe it's stress. Maybe it's something like that. I get her on my table, Lynn. She lays down. I see this giant lump below her belly button. I go, you have uterine fibroids. When have you been to the gynecologist? She goes, 2 weeks ago. They didn't see a problem with this.
Well, no, they're gyno, Tom. They don't look at belly buttons, for God's sake.
I mean, it was that big. And I said, your hair is falling out because your hormones are a mess. And she goes, really? Yeah, I go, I think, you get your hormones in check, everything will be fine. Now, long story short, I just saw her again after a year, and she goes, so I've got this tumor. I'm like, on your pituitary? And she's like, how do you know that? I'm like, you're like the third person in the last 2 years. But it's unless to your point before, if you're just looking at an ovary, if you're just looking here, you're missing everything.
So both of these conversations kind of were going where I was going with that question, which is like, is there an increased awareness and literacy in people not in that trauma triage mode that are basically getting hip to this in their teens or 20s more than there used to be? Or are we just sort of doing what humans do best and ignoring it when I feel fine and wait until something shitty happens?
No, I do think the younger generation is more hip to it. Thank goodness. Social media probably has something good about it, and that is that people, there's a lot of bad things about it, but the younger generation is more informed. And like I said before, they're talking about it. They might not use the word functional medicine, but they want answers. They're not necessarily satisfied for somebody up here telling them or not telling them what their body, what their body's supposed to do or not do. And they're looking for answers. So I do think we've advanced some, thank goodness. And I do think people are more proactive than they used to be.
Right. I mean, in your clinic, Tom, do you see anybody younger coming in?
Well, I think because we have some treatments that people would label as trendy.
Right.
I've been honest about me backing away from the term biohacking because I don't want that white tech male douchebaggy kind of persona. And look, I don't read that way, and I'm not saying, but like, I want everything to be accessible to everyone when it's appropriate. And we definitely have we're in a younger, hipper part of town.
Right.
Yeah, so, and I think, we've talked about this, Matt, as Gen Xers, Lynn, we've seen what our parents are going through. And Wilford Brimley was like a year older than Matt when he filmed Cocoon.
Which is fucking crazy. Yeah.
And he's the diabetes guy. Diabetes.
No, but he says he does say it kind of weird.
Says
like, that's not
very
right.
Weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we don't want to feel that way now. And I think when we change how we behave, our kids see that. And we're doing all this weird stuff. And I've had conversations with Lynn's son, and he goes, oh yeah, I just did. Matt, you'll love this. She's got a Beamer.
Oh, do you? I'm looking at one right now. Yeah. I'm very excited
two
about
beavers.
Yeah. Oh, you got two of them now.
When Tom said,
and we're not talking about the car.
Yeah, no. When Tom said your favorite word, I was like, oh, she's going to talk about PMF, and I'm like, and then you went AI. I'm like, all right, that makes sense.
I said AI because I was trying to get to the technology part of what Lynn's doing.
Yeah, no, I'm heavily considering a Beamer at the moment because again, I'm chasing a specific problem. I got this Achilles problem. I know what it is. It's an overuse injury, but it won't go away. And I've been doing all kinds of stretches and this and that, all the stuff that I've done before to success, and it's not working. So I'm like working the problem. Now I'm moving on to Beamer, and my wife's had TMJ for 20 years and finally decided to start doing something about it. But I gave Tom the scan results, and he's like, oh, she's got scar tissue and this and that and the other. And I'm like, and then on the Beamer list of benefits, it's like ding, 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 ding. It hits like 6 out of 8 of the things she has. I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot. And so I'm not.
Well, Matt, you sent me that, and I'm like, yeah. So this is just saying she's got really bad TMJ.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
it's like
it was a bunch of fancy words to say. Yeah, your jaw's fucked up.
Bone change, tendon desiccation.
Back to the AI thing. Like with Lear, we're not even really using AI.
Yeah.
The way you think we're using it, at least to start. We're just sitting down with our computer programmers and they're like, we're writing code for thousands of if-then statements.
Right.
And, it's all coming out of our brains. Like if this symptom and this goal and this biomarker meets here, what would you tell that person to do? And we're just programming that into our system to start. We're using AI more for tone, for language, for prompts, for content, but our system will get smarter over time. We'll be able to feed certain inputs back into the system. But right now, it's just the slog of programming it all, like the thousands of pages of code that we're writing, which is cool. But it's not really AI. It's like
but what you don't realize you're doing is you're training your model. Like
we're training the model for future.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you look at these people that everyone's heard that word training, model training and stuff like that, and like what they don't realize is that it's a pretty manual process, right? Like you have to not only put data in, but you have to say, oh, this response you just gave isn't accurate. Like you misinterpreted this. So then go back and say, oh, what is the right answer? Is it this, that, So it's a long process. So that's what you guys are doing. So I think that's great. Yeah. And honestly, it goes back to what we were talking about a few minutes ago. When people like you start applying your knowledge to this, the Western component of it's already extant. So you can
baked in. Yeah.
You could always just pull that out of the ether because it's already here, right? Like we've got tons of that. Like, so you don't have to solve for that, right? It's
right.
Which is exciting because you're like, oh, this is the most important part. You're like, no, it's actually the least important because it's so fucking predictable and it's everywhere. So, well, what's your long term? I mean, is this going to be like, are you seeing this as the future of your practice?
It's great. Well, I hope it will replace.
Yeah, I don't want to paint you into a box. I'm just curious. Yeah.
Tell us everything that's going to happen with the rest of your life.
Yeah, exactly. Right now, go.
Yeah. So we're looking to launch late fourth quarter this year.
Okay.
So probably November-ish, December-ish. There's some variance in that. But, after that, we're hoping that it takes off. We're in the building process is slow and hard and requires funding. And so we're going through all that right now. It's just a matter of getting launched and getting it out there and then growing and scaling. That's the hard part. We got the ideas, I think. It's just about growing it and how's it going to grow.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like that's probably a problem for you in the beginning, but I feel like this is one of those things and you hit the nail on the head earlier, when one person finds this to be successful, you don't really have right now a lot of the competitive landscape on that side of things is very, very small because you've got a lot of people yammering about AI, but not a lot of people doing anything meaningful. And I have yet to see people with this tidal wave of results.
Right.
That are driving people to any one product right now. That's not going to be the same in 2 or 3 years, probably maybe less, but right now, today.
Right now.
Yeah.
That's why we're trying to hustle and get this out here right now, especially with our market, with the female market. We think that the market wants it and is ready for it. It's just finishing the building, getting it out there and growing, and finding partners like Tom, like finding the people that are going to help us get out there, scale it. And then, if anybody's interested in it, you can go to Lera Health, Lera Health.com. There's,
Tom,
you can sign up for the.
Oh, I'm on it, man. Lynn, we got all these new tools.
Yeah.
You can sign up for the wait list when we launch.
Here we come. Yeah. Boom. Tom.
Let me link it. Let me link it. I'm sorry. This is taking longer than I should.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, it says for women right now, but the men's component of this is coming shortly thereafter.
What was that URL again? I just want to pull it up and kind of check it out.
Lera, Lera Health.
Oh, Lera Health. Okay. I was like,
I want to make this. I want to make this clickable.
I was like, there you go.
Oh, there we
go. Super fancy now. We're big time.
So, fourth quarter and Q1 are going to be exciting times. You are not the first person that we've talked to, even just on this show, that has that same event horizon for their sort of digital health platform. I suspect that we are going to be in an explosively exciting phase once that happens, because they're all very hyper niche things.
Good.
Like, like it's like real specific.
Yeah. One of them is very deep in performance enhancement.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you got to pick a niche, it's difficult. It feels uncomfortable to pick a niche, because what I do in my day job is all comers, whatever you got, come on, male, female, young, old, I'll fix your problems. So to actually like narrow that down and say, well, no, like, who do you see a lot of? Who can you fix? Who do you understand? Who do you know? Like, I've been that person. So I know this woman very well. All of our founders are female. We're very female focused. And so it just felt right to say, well, let's start here. We can speak this person's language. We know exactly what they're going through. But it's hard to pick a niche, but niche is important when you're first starting out. It's extremely difficult if you're just casting a really wide net, as I'm sure you know. Got to pick something.
Yeah, no, and aside from that, yes, and I think that like the reality is that life, being alive, is a complicated activity, right? Like, and it can't really, you need to get down into the weeds on one thing or another, because you're not going to have everything all the time, right? So I think it makes total sense. But like up until now, we haven't had the technological vocabulary to be able to do that, right? Like we haven't. Like if you're sick, here's an broad spectrum antibiotic, and go for it.
Right.
And
that time is right. The time is exciting. The tools are there. The audience is there. Just got to get it out to the world.
Yeah. A year ago, I made a joke. I was like, there's going to be an AI for everything. There's going to be an AI for the migratory bee excrement. And like, what does it mean for different bees? And people were laughing and I was laughing. But now I'm like, man, we're like fucking close to that. Like,
we're knocking on that door. Yeah.
We're getting real close to that, because it's, your thing looks really specific. And so I sign up for the wait list now. Like when are you planning on reaching out to people? Is that Q4 thing? Is that what you're
like not before that, but you'll start to get outreach from us. We're not on social media yet, but we're going to have a presence out there, starting a little bit before launch. So you'll start hearing from us as we get closer to launch.
I just signed my wife up for your wait list, and I had to send her a text message. I'm like, don't spam this out. It was actually real.
I signed up as well, but I was told I have at least one functioning ovary.
Yeah.
I'm very sensitive.
I actually signed myself up as well, because I'm curious. Like, these are things that I definitely am highly interested in following, because I mean, what I've noticed too, actually, and this is one unintended side effect of this show, is that I'm realizing that the interconnected nature of all of this stuff is way more than we thought, right? Like, there's
absolutely
so much.
We didn't know you were going to start swinging at meditation too, right? We've had EFT practitioners say similar things,
right,
to what you're talking about, hypnosis, all of this stuff, and really just, I guess it comes down to like the actual human experience, like what we're all going through,
right,
collectively,
and the interconnected. Even on our team, our tech teams in Ireland, our design teams in Brazil, like none of this would have been possible a few years ago, like efficiently. It's the timing is right for this explosion that you're talking about. It's just really, really exciting.
Well, and one thing that we don't cover on this show a lot, but I cover in my other life quite a lot, is that the most exciting part about AI to me isn't what it can do, it's what it removes, which is the technical acumen required to do a task, right? Like, I don't need to, before you had to pay a guy like me to build your website, and then WordPress came out. Now, people still don't want to build their WordPress sites, not because they can't, but because they're fucking lazy or they're busy, right? Like, so people will still pay you, but now you've got Wix and Shopify. I mean, you could drag and drop a website together in 5 minutes. People still pay us to do that because they're still lazy. So it's not necessarily that these technologies replace humans all the time, but what they do is they make it so that some Luddite selling a mousetrap out of his garage can figure out how to put their website together in an afternoon.
Yeah.
Whereas 10 years ago, it would have cost $20,000 and you would have need to look around and go through 5 designers before you found the one that worked. And, it would have been a very tragically long story, usually very expensive. And AI is even better because now people are writing iPhone apps to do fancy shit like this, like you're doing, but they're writing it with like tools like Copilot or something that's literally writing the code for you out of a prompt. You're like, I need an iPhone app that has a splash screen with this logo. Great. What's your logo? Here it is. Great. Here's the code. It's like, and you still probably need a little technical chops to stitch it all together, but like give it a couple months and I'm just going to be talking to Siri and being like, hey, I need an iPhone app that, measures my wife's hormone health. Like, what do you got for me?
What I mean? And Siri is going to play like your favorite hits on Spotify by accident.
Yeah. Well, Apple just signed a deal with OpenAI, so Siri's getting replaced by ChatGPT, which will be exciting. It'll still be called Siri, but it's going to have their underlying architecture, so Siri will actually fucking have any idea what you're talking about, which is very exciting news. But yeah, so Lynn, like my question is, somebody like you, right? You come to the table and you have no more technical barrier. How much cooler shit could you do in that environment? Right. And like, we're about to find out, right? Like that's
we're about to find out. I'm not going to spill beans, but
no, but that's exactly right. Right. And that's exciting because 5 years ago, 1 year ago, you would have been in a box. Like you couldn't do that.
You know what else is really cool that's kind of exploded is the direct to consumer market of testing.
Sure.
So like, which is good and bad, but I mean, anybody can just go online and I want to order this test on myself and that test on myself and that test on myself. The problem is that there's nothing out there that's really telling people what to do with that information. They all walk into my office with all these tests they've done online and they say, I don't know how to interpret it. But the point is that the direct to consumer testing market has opened up a lot of channels, some good, some bad, that we need to harness and take advantage of as well. There's nobody connecting the dots for those people. It's just a test.
It's just
unusable results.
Yeah, I had to upload. I just tried to find out my motherfucker, I don't know what you call it, dysfunction. I don't know. I found out that
MTHFR.
Yeah. So, but I couldn't find a test that genomics link doesn't work anymore. They got rid of that.
Oh, really? They dumped it. That was free for so long.
So I was the nerd. And here's the thing. Here's what, to your point, Lynn, is like, I knew enough to know that there's that ID for each gene, right? And so I basically found out what that code is for both of the MTHFR, genes, and then went to my 23andMe raw data, did a search for both of those IDs, and then looked at the result just manually. And that took me like 20 minutes to figure out how to do all that. But at least I knew the questions to ask and get there. But like, again, I want to be able to upload my 23andMe data and just be like, hey, Siri, there was a new study on whatever.
Well, there's companies out there doing that. There's things that we're working on that are going to do that. Like, take your genetics, take your test results, take your symptoms, take your family history, all that, roll it into one and say, what's the best plan for Matt to be on?
Yeah.
Putting all those dots together for people.
And we're going to get there, but like, it's like in 1999 when I'm in my college dorm, 1998 in my college dorm room, looking at the Ethernet jack in the wall, and keep in mind, AOL ding, 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 was still kind of a thing. Right. And I looked at this Ethernet jack and I told my parents, I was like in a car ride home, I'm like, you know what, this little hole in the wall is going to change the world. And my dad was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, an Ethernet jack. He goes, what the fuck is that? And I'm like, it basically makes the internet usable, right? Like, as opposed to like, and it was like this thing where you're just sitting in a reality where you're like, you see the future and you're like, fuck, I know we could be here and we're not. And it took another decade for that little hole in the wall to mean anything meaningful anyway. And here we are, it's the same thing. It's like, you know, I can see a future where this shit is just so much more efficient and there. We just, we're so close and yet so far. I need like 10,000 more Lynn's out there banging the walls and making that shit happen, you know, before, because I don't have the ability to do that. Like you said, funding is a big thing, right? And funding
buckle
these
up,
things
boys, it's coming.
Yeah, I want you
ready
to be
for
right.
it.
Yeah, I'm ready, man. Fuck yeah, I'm ready.
I want AI to take all of our jobs, and then we can just kind of hang out.
I mean,
I was promised this
future.
future.
I can pay my bills. It's fine.
No, look, like let's not even worry about bills. AI will figure that out too.
Well, if you really want to piss people off, start saying UBI to people about AI, and they like start freaking out. You know, like you know, what do you mean? Government's going to pay us all? I'm like, oh, come on, yeah, we can go down a whole.
You're gonna need to.
Yeah, you're gonna need to.
No one's gonna be able to do anything. Great.
Well, hey, Lynn, I could talk to you forever, but we're right around that time. So, we got Lyra Health. Anywhere else we can send people to check you out? That's sort of a little bit longer tail, but anything in the here and now you want to send?
If you're in Maryland.
Yeah, if you're in Maryland, Turning Point Integrative Health Center.
Awesome.
All right.
We're in Columbia. We're in Annapolis. Columbia and Annapolis. Yep, that's my day job.
Didn't I tell you to go there, man?
Me?
Did you?
Yeah, you.
You told me about Lynn several times, yes.
Okay.
And, but it was not a prescription. It was more of a FYI. Like,
oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's throw Lynn, that one up too.
Lynn, I might actually want to reach out to you because like I am kind of diving in on this PMF thing. And if you do know anything about that, I might want to pick your brain on that a little bit.
Sure.
We gotta get him Brian Leggett in front of her and Mark.
Yeah, you guys would be fun. He's really into the PMF, but he's into like 1,000 other things. I mean, he has a soundtrack created by a guy who lives in a pyramid in like Nepal because it's like optimal energy.
He's got a multifunctional device.
Yeah. So, you know, he kind of goes way down there. But 2 seconds. Do you like your Beamer? I'm just curious. I mean, you said.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Oh, yeah.
See, there you go. Are you a daily user or are you like a weekly? Like where you at?
My son's a daily user. I am more of a spotty user now. I was faithful for years. I've just gotten away a little bit from the daily use, but I swear by it. Yeah,
is it because you no longer need it because you're tuned up and humming along? Or
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
I used to really feel like I needed it every day, and now it's just kind of like the occasional maintenance.
Just tune up. Is your son have like some reason to use it every day, or he just likes it?
He just like my son will use he's a biohacker too.
He hangs out at my office just to hang out.
Just to do stuff. Yeah.
Like, he just comes in and hangs out.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm curious to try it. They have the bed sheets, which I'm actually very curious
My son uses it for sleep a lot.
Oh, that's funny.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if it's always been like that, but they have this like portable iPad boxy thing that you kind of just magna clip in like the power supply for the Yeah. And you could just drag this thing around so you could have your bed sheets on your bed. You could have your mat downstairs. Yeah. You can, but the devices can be scattered around your house and you could just drag the box around and plug it into here, which I do think is because I'll have one in my desk chair. I'll put one in my workout room and then I'll have a bed sheet and I'll just kind of like drag the box around when I need it. It does only come with one bed sheet, Tom, though. So if I want to be a nice guy, I have to actually order like an add-on bed sheet so that my wife and I
sewed one for myself.
Did you?
You sewed one?
I made my own. I was like doing sewing as like a side hobby. And I just like made a cover for it.
You have time for hobbies? What the fuck am I doing wrong?
Yeah, right. Seriously, Tom. Well, wait, isn't there like wires in there or something, Lynn? Don't you need?
Well, I allowed a little outlet for the wires to come out of it. Like I put.
I know, but where'd you get all the trail of wires that go through the blanket?
You don't know how deep this conversation could go.
Yeah. No, I'm
what I know of her and her partner, this could go This could go very,
well, I'm curious,
very
did you get
deep.
like a spool of wire off the internet and like stitch it into a blanket? Like, I mean, what are we talking about?
Matt, we're talking about the use of Faraday cages.
Well, I mean,
I don't know. I just jury rig something. I don't know.
I like the cut of your jib, man. That
You
sounds
do a
like
lot
a
with
great
Velcro and yeah.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about the blanket part. I could sew a blanket, but I'm curious about the conductive part that actually, you know, like gets the PMF through the blanket. Like I'm assuming it's like a Faraday cage.
Goes through. Yeah, it goes through.
Oh,
it goes through up to a certain point.
Oh man, I'm gonna.
You don't want it on the head or something.
What's that?
You don't want it on the head, right?
That's what they say.
Yeah,
that's what they say. Well, they say it works for TMJ, but like I'm like, well, if you can't put it on your head, how the fuck is it work for TMJ? You know, you got to get it on your face if you're, you know.
Right.
I don't know which one you have, but like the one that they sell now has like this spot. You know,
you have
like
the spot.
yeah, like this spot. So I'm guessing you just like
put it on the
spot.
Your face. Put it on the spot. Yeah, I have the mat. I have the spot. I have this like long, like narrower looking thing that you can wrap around body parts.
I say, yeah. So like an elbow or a knee, or if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I was looking at that for my ankle. I'm like, you know, maybe I need to like really dive in on this thing anyway. I'd love to reach out and say hi. And I'd love to hear more about what you do there. Cause like I said, it's something I'm always interested in.
We could talk about various other topics. I'm happy to come back anytime.
Love it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We're trying to get our summit together here, of which I know Tom wants to have you in a part of. So I'm excited about that, where we get together a bunch of our previous guests and do like an all day, you know, everyone has like
I casually mentioned, hey, do you know this software does summits?
Yeah.
And it's like, Tom wants us to have
really cool.
Yeah. Well, it's such a cool idea because like, honestly, we get it's such a privilege to be able to talk to this many people about this many topics. Like I'm only now realizing how privileged it is because we just have the coolest conversations on here. And I'm like, Tom suggested this summit. I'm like, what a fucking awesome idea. Like, share that with everybody. Like they get to hear, you know,
and everybody can promote themselves. Everybody can pass on knowledge, which is kind of what we're all trying to do.
And that interconnected nature thing is interesting because I can string together you and the last like 15 guests if I had like 30 seconds of dedicated thought to this. Like you know, like it's like really
there's a thread. There's a common thread.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Real easy to do if you're, you know, but cool. Well, thank you again so much. I so appreciate your time. It was great finally putting a face to a name. Tom's been crushing on you for years. Like he's like, this woman's great. She's like my go-to about everything. I'm like, okay.
You know, she gets these random texts from me. And it's like, I don't even spell what I'm trying to take right.
But I know what you're trying to say.
I'm like, can I take this?
Mutual Admiration Society, Tom.
Of course. That's awesome. Well, listen, guys, enjoy the weekend. It was awesome talking, and talk to you soon.
Okay.
All right, later.
Bye-bye.
Be subversive, irreverent.
Health is wealth, but you knew that.
Everybody knows that.
But so is following us on social media at Irreverent Health. And check out our website for more exclusive content at irreverenthealth.com.
Oh, I like this.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Irreverent Health.